Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, Mark Pollock is the epitome of resilience. Living with blindness and paralysis, Mark does not wallow in his own misfortune, but rather he focuses on the audacious goal of finding a cure for paralysis. Paula Cunniffe is the CEO of the Mark Pollock Trust, and she joins us now to discuss this audacious goal and the important role which the funds raised through next week's Run in the Dark event will play in developing a cure. Paula, the Run in the Dark event will be taking place all over the world next Wednesday and of course virtually here in County Wexford, and it's been led here locally by Niall Reck of the Rotary Club of Wexford. But after a year of curtailed activity, how important are fundraisers like this in the aftermath of the pandemic?
Well, we've had 2 years of curtailed fundraising with the pandemic because we usually do our fundraiser Run in the Dark by gathering people together to run in mass participation events. So people, I think, being willing to give in terms of fundraising, donating is hugely important when the regular fundraising activities that charities around Ireland and around the world, when they can't do those anymore. So what we've noticed is that people are very open to giving in the last year or two. You will have seen some of the amazing fundraisers Pieta House did, for example, and others, where people are putting their hand in their pocket perhaps in a way they didn't do before. So it's vital for us and for many other charities that we have people helping us with fundraising to allow us to cover our costs, to do the work we want to do, to bring people together to cure paralysis. But I think what's the pleasant thing and the surprising thing I've seen during the pandemic is people giving more. You could have imagined that it would be harder for people to give because, some people maybe had financial constraints, but actually maybe it's made us think a little bit more about those of us that are fortunate and how we can help others.
Great. Now, we are all very familiar with Mark's incredible story, and he's the epitome of someone who triumphs over adversity. But what is it like to work as the CEO of such an inspiring organisation?
Mark is an amazing person, and a lot of your listeners probably know his story, going blind, age 22, having an awful accident, a fall from a second-story window, which left him paralysed. And, what's important for us as an organisation is knowing why you're doing what you're doing. So what's our purpose and what are we trying to achieve? So I think having such an amazing purpose, everything we do is about helping people achieve more, whether that's through our Run in the Dark event, through Mark professional speaking, and then in our work to bring people together to cure paralysis. So I always focus on the why we're doing what we're doing. And, it's hard not to feel fulfilled at the end of a day when you've achieved something that could help millions of people be able to walk again down the line. Working with Mark is great. He's actually really good fun. Some people might think because his story is a little serious that that he might be serious, but he's really not, and we've built a fantastic team around us to help us achieve those goals. And it's really important that everything we do as a team and we do collaboratively. And I suppose that's led by Mark and me, but also through our whole team at the Mark Pollock Trust.
And what have you learned from Mark more than anything else during your time working with him?
Mark has this amazing approach to dealing with challenges, Carl. And he says, sometimes we choose our challenges and sometimes they choose us. What we decide to do about it is what counts. So it's not about what a challenge appears, because that's going to happen. That's inevitable. But what we do about it is what matters. So we really focus on if a challenge appears, the pandemic being a really obvious one, we don't focus on all of these external things going on that we can't control. We focus on how we react. And that's something I've really learned from Mark. If you look at how he reacted when he went blind, then eventually racing, to the South Pole and doing all these amazing adventure races, when he had the accident and became paralysed, didn't take for granted, the idea that we could find a cure, and said, well, why is there no cure and what can we do? So this idea that what we decide to do when we're faced with challenges is what really defines us is something, and it's something we model again and throughout our whole team. So with Run in the Dark, when the pandemic happened, we thought, okay, well, can we have live events? At the start, people were telling us by November, of course you can have live events. And of course, we now know 18 months later that we couldn't still even now have live events. But we really didn't worry about what was going on and all the noise externally. We just focused on what we needed to do and how we were going to react. And that's a great lesson, I think, that Mark has taught all of us.
And talk to us about the overall objective of the Mark Pollock Trust and how Mark is actively pursuing this.
Yeah, so, what we're trying to do is cure paralysis in our lifetime, or at least make a contribution towards that. And it all really started when Mark was in hospital. He was told there's no cure for paralysis, just accept that fact, you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And of course, he accepts the wheelchair, and a lot of people have really fulfilled lives as wheelchair users. But he kind of said, well, why is there no cure, and what's being done in that space? And so he then very much looked at, well, why are the blockages to trying to find a cure for paralysis? Like, look what's been done in the last year with the COVID vaccine when everybody got together. So over the last 10 years, we've really focused on how we can make collaborations. How can we get people to work together? Because what we've seen in this space is that a lot of people are fragmented. So there's these amazing world-class people all over the world, scientists, technologists, funders, foundations, but a lot of them working as soloists. They're working on their own, and they don't have the time or the space to look sideways and see what else is going on. So that's kind of where we come in. And our role is, we know a lot of people working in this area, and how can we bring them together to find a cure? We did some research with Accenture, the doc in Accenture last year, and we found a couple of issues in terms of fragmentation, and really it cemented our view and the work we had been doing over the last 10 years, that collaboration is going to be how we're going to cure paralysis. It's not going to be one person or one lab that will find the cure. It's always going to be a story of collaboration.
And Paula, when we last spoke, the Trust had just launched the Exoskeleton Access Programme at DCU. How successful has this programme been to date? And are there further stages of this programme to come?
The DCU Exoskeleton Programme has been going from strength to strength. So there's, up to 100 sessions happening every month. And what it looks like is people can apply to go in and stand and walk and use the exoskeleton as a rehab tool. There's an amazing physiotherapist managing the program in there. And actually what we're doing now is layering research on that. So we have people coming in and using this technology. Well, how can we harness research to learn more about the benefits of the exoskeleton? So that's what we're currently looking at. I think down the line, it's definitely a program that could be replicated elsewhere. And there are a number of exoskeletons in different parts of the country, and amazing programs that people can access exoskeletons. But the research is really exciting because it'll help us learn what the benefits are, and then maybe make cases to health services around the world about why, for example, the HSE could have exoskeletons for people to use for rehabilitation.
And in order to provide access to these robotic legs, the Trust needs to raise valuable funds, and one of its most important events in this regard is Run in the Dark. Talk to us about the origins of that event and how it has evolved into a global success.
So when Mark was still in hospital 12 years ago almost now, his friends and family came together and they wanted to do some kind of fundraiser to support. And they came up with Run in the Dark. And in the first year, it was called Run in the Dark for Mark. And we dropped the for Mark after that first year. But it started out in just 4 locations in Ireland. And then through Mark's network and just Irish people all over the world, we grew it into this global event. As you said, 25,000 people take part every year. Last year, with the event being virtual, we built a Run in the Dark app, and we had people taking part in 2,000 cities all around the world. So, in America, Canada, Asia, throughout Europe, Australia. And so it's grown, but massively through the support of volunteers. And no more than yourself, Carl, who set up a Wexford Run in the Dark a couple of years ago when we could have those live events. And it's allowed us to grow it. So not only obviously as a fundraiser and from a revenue point of view, but also in terms of having this global community of people who are supporting the cause and who we can also tell what's going on in terms of our cause to bring people together to cure paralysis.
And Paula, as you say, Run in the Dark is available here in County Wexford, albeit through a virtual event this year. So how does that actually work? So you can sign up at runinthedark.org, and then you will get your run pack. In Ireland, we're couriering the run packs with Fastway Couriers, who are our logistics partner this year. And then on the day, you'll download the Run in the Dark app and you'll time it. So you'll literally stand at the start of your run route, which you choose yourself, press the green start button, do your 5K or 10K, which you can walk or run, by the way. It's open to all abilities.
And then when you finish your run, your time will go up on a global leaderboard with everybody taking part all over the world. Now, if some people don't want to use the Run in the Dark app, that's okay as well. You can still take part. But we use the app so that we can join the whole global community together. And you can, if you're like a bit of healthy competition, you can see how your time ranks compared to people all over the world.
And Paula, finally, after Run in the Dark, what's next on the agenda for the Mark Pollock Trust?
Great question. A little bit of a breather, I would say. But no, we set up a charity last year called Collaborative Cures as a way of scaling the work that Mark has been doing through the Mark Pollock Trust. And so our focus in this year has been about making sure we know all the people working in this area and growing our network. And then next year, we're looking at potentially adding some interesting research around how to facilitate collaboration. We're very interested in the role of trust and how having trust between people can really help collaborations happen. So I think we'll look at doing some research that can support the people that we're working with to collaborate better.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Paula Cunniffe, the CEO of the Mark Pollock Trust, and I urge all of our listeners to support this extremely worthy cause.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
South